So that was interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my full review of WrestleMania 41 Night 2. This was a WrestleMania that had a lot to love. It had some fantastic matches, some great returns, a shock surprise, history was made, we had title change galore, but all we're going to remember was that ridiculous ending to this show. And don't worry, we'll be talking about that and so much more in this video, because we're going to go through things match by match. I'm going to tell you what I liked, I'm going to tell you what I didn't like, whether I agreed with the booking decisions, and I'm going to tell you where I think things can go from here. I did do a separate review on Patreon that goes into a lot more detail and actually uses footage of everything that happened so that you can see frame by frame what I'm talking about, and that's available right now on the Patreon. If you go on over there, patreon.com/SantiZap, link in the description or a link in the pinned comment. We also post so much more extra stuff that will never get uploaded here to YouTube. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I am incredibly confident that you're going to fall in love with his YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. All right, as Trick Williams says, let's talk about it. Let's start things off by talking about the Women's World Championship match between the champion Io Sky defending against Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley. This match, by all accounts, was fantastic, and I'm not surprised that it was fantastic. In fact, well before this match actually happened, when I looked at the card of night 2, I said that on paper, this match should be the best from an in-ring perspective, and I was 100% right about that statement because these ladies absolutely tore the freaking house down. It was a really interesting dynamic in this match as well from a character point of view, because we had Io Sky and Rhea Ripley, who are both ridiculously loved by this crowd, a crowd that was much better this time around, by the way, and a Bianca Belair that was booed from the onset. The second her music hit, she was public enemy number one for that crowd, and I was honestly completely surprised. I'm surprised because I really thought that the boos for Bianca Belair were going to be a Europe thing. I really wasn't expecting the boos to carry to the United States, and I wasn't expecting Bianca Belair to acknowledge the boos and play into the boos like she was in this match and even during her entrance. To me, a Bianca Belair heel turn is very much on the table now, because something tells me that these boos are not going to stop, especially with Bianca Belair actually acknowledging these boos. Now, I know that this weekend had a bunch of triple threat matches, the night 1 main event, the main event of Stand and Deliver, and now this match. So if you've watched those other reviews, you'll have heard me say this statement, but I'm going to say it again. This was my favorite type of triple threat match, the type of triple threat match where all women are in the ring participating in the offense and free flowing from one person to the other, because the worst type of triple threat matches are the ones where it's basically just a one-on-one match with somebody wrestling on the outside. This is not what this was. All 3 women were basically participating in the offense, whether they were all in the ring or even if it went outside of the ring, all 3 women would follow each other and the offense and the carnage would follow as well. The combination of the strength of Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley alongside the insane agility and creativity of Io Sky made for a really pleasant match to watch. A match that, in my opinion, from an in-ring perspective, may have just been the best match of night 2. And it was made even better by the fact that Io Sky actually won, something that not many people were actually expecting that would happen, considering Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley are both, maybe not anymore, significantly more popular than Io Sky. And I love the ending to this match, because the ending to this match was a demonstration of how the entire match went, because it included all 3 women. Because you have a Bianca Belair that's about to pick up the victory, about to pin Rhea Ripley after hitting the KOD, only for Io Sky to come out of nowhere with a moonsault and hit both of them and then pin Bianca, the person that's never been pinned at WrestleMania. And by the way, this is basically a replica, like move for move finish of how Io Sky won her first NXT Women's Championship. A match that, funnily enough, also included Rhea Ripley. My final verdict for this match is that it was brilliant. I really have nothing bad to say about this match. The women absolutely stole the show, and this is one of my favorite, and it might be, I need more time to process this, it might be my favorite women's match in WrestleMania history. But again, maybe I'm just being a little bit biased because Io freaking won. Let's go. Yeah, this gets a thumbs up. Now let's go to Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest in a Sin City street fight. In yesterday's WrestleMania card, this was the dead spot. This is where they put that New Day versus the War Raiders match that didn't even deserve to be on the Mania card. But instead, here we had a match that absolutely earned the right to be on the WrestleMania card, and it was basically the only match with a stipulation. I say basically because triple threat matches matches and fatal four ways in themselves are a stipulation because there's no disqualification in those matches. But right now I'm just kind of being a nerdy wrestling nerd. I digress. I felt like the battle between these two was appropriate. I felt like the brutality in this match was all earned. We had some great spots with a nasty table bump where Damian Priest is doing his old school homage to The Undertaker, but he gets pushed to the outside and he goes through two tables. And then we have an awesome Future Shock DDT that looked just nasty on the steel steps, a bunch of stuff with tables. We had a razor's edge through a table, a bunch of stuff with chairs. Like, this had all the makings of just a fun street fight, and it also included two amazing, talented individuals in Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre. There really isn't much to dislike about this. We even got a nod to last year's viral moment where we had Drew McIntyre even pull out his phone and take a selfie with a beaten down Damian Priest and posted, "Still bored at work," a tweet that's going absolutely bananas viral right now. They both did have fancy WrestleMania entrances, but nothing really that, was like super awesome or grandiose. Drew McIntyre was the victim of yet another product placement entrance at WrestleMania. I'm curious if the talent that's doing these product placement entrances get paid extra. I certainly hope that they do. We did have Drew McIntyre win, which I did say if Drew McIntyre doesn't win, that I would jump out of a window. I'm glad that didn't happen. I also meant jump out of a window in Minecraft. Don't do that in real life. But Drew McIntyre did win. Thank God. Drew's able to pick up the victory with this nasty, nasty claymore on the corner of the ring onto a chair that ricochets right into Damian Priest's head. That was after the nutty table bump that Damian Priest took. This was a great finish, a fun, hard-hitting match. Nothing to dislike here. This gets a thumbs up for me. So night 2 is off to a really hot start. And if you thought that was a hot start, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you bought your Dominic Mysterio stocks like I told you to, because it was time to become a Dom millionaire, because we have Dominic Mysterio defeating Braun Breaker, Finn Balor, and Penta in a fatal four-way match for the WWE Intercontinental Championship. To me, this match was always going to be good. This was also a rare situation where they couldn't be wrong with whoever they picked to win. If Finn Balor won, then everybody would have rejoiced because it was the return of a potential main event Finn Balor push. If Braun Breaker won, great. He's an up-and-coming dude that could benefit from a giant win like this at WrestleMania. If Penta won, that's awesome. Look at the debut that Penta had that's led to a WrestleMania win, and Dominic Mysterio winning was also a fan favorite decision because people just love Dominic Mysterio. And damn it, people love Dominic Mysterio, not just online anymore, but in that stadium. I dare say that Dominic Mysterio may have been the most over talent in the WWE in all of night 2. That crowd was so pro Dominic Mysterio, even doing the classic Cody Rhodes chant, but Dirty Dom instead. We had Braun Breaker in this match just being the MVP. This guy was doing so many cool moves, appearing out of nowhere, spearing people left, right, and center. We had the crazy hurricanranas that he does from the top rope. That at one point he was able to suplex Penta, who had Finn Balor in the Penta driver, and then is able to German suplex both of them. This man is an absolute freak, but that wasn't even the highlight of Braun Breaker. The highlight of Braun Breaker was he once again murdered Carlito by spearing him from one table to the other through the second table in an absolutely hilariously awesome moment. Because we were expecting Carlito out there because he's been part of the story, albeit being like an auxiliary fifth piece, because we knew that at some point or another we would have stuff with all of the Judgment Day, and we had all of that stuff of the Judgment Day storyline of Finn Balor belittling Dominic Mysterio finally like come to a boiling point in this match where Dominic Mysterio fired the first bullet and attacked Finn Balor during the match first, which then just sort of meant it was open season, and then Finn Balor and Dominic Mysterio just sort of became part of the onslaught of this match, even against each other. Penta did his great high-flying stuff. Finn Balor looked like a great technical wrestler. Dominic Mysterio looked like a really opportunistic heel, a heel that didn't sound like a heel based on what the crowd was chanting because he was the biggest, most over guy in this match. But we had an awesome moment with a coup de grace being delivered by Finn Balor. You think that Finn Balor is going to win and pin the actual champion Braun Breaker, only for Dominic Mysterio to come in out of nowhere with a beautiful frog splash, hit both of them, kind of like almost exactly like how the Io Sky match ended, and he pins Finn Balor. This was the perfect way to end this match, and it was the perfect combination of people who are doing the pinning in Dominic Mysterio and the person being pinned, because the story between Dominic Mysterio and Finn Balor warranted this finish. So to me, the right person everyone. Braun Breaker is going to probably be able to go after a main event title, maybe go after Jey Uso at this point. And Finn Balor has somebody foiled now that he can go up against in Dominic Mysterio, and Penta's still over as hell. He's going to be just fine. And honestly, Penta versus Dominic Mysterio in itself sounds like a great feud to continue whatever we just did here, because whatever we did here was a giant hit. Dominic Mysterio is your new Intercontinental Champion. The world is better. The world is healing. And right now, this Mania Night 2 is on pace to be the best night of WrestleMania ever, potentially. So yeah, this Fatal 4-Way, absolute thumbs up. This is like back to back to back, like just great start to this show. This is unreal. This is so good. Oh. Oh my God. Dude, here we go.
Oh, man, there it is.
That's what we live for. That's a good moment. That was beautiful. Psych! That was a sneak peek of this week's Wrestling is Cool Match Club WrestleMania edition, available exclusively on patreon.com/SantiZap. This week, we're looking at Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes, Bloodline Rules WrestleMania 40. God damn it, it's just as good as I remembered. The legendary match between The Rock and Hollywood Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 18. The technical classic between Chris Jericho and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 19. The WrestleMania 23 Money in the Bank ladder match. And part 3 of the trilogy that was Stone Cold versus The Rock at WrestleMania 19. You'll be getting all of these, plus all the other matches that we've already done, plus the Raw reviews, SmackDown reviews, the currently ongoing and almost done Undertaker WrestleMania match review, the currently ongoing Royal Rumble reviews that we're doing, and so much more, all over on patreon.com/SantiZap. This is all content that we can never upload to YouTube because it would just get blocked due to copyright anyway, because we use real footage. So go check it out, patreon.com/SantiZap. I am confident that if you try it even for just 1 month for this WrestleMania season, that you're going to fall in love with the content and the community. If you're already a patron, thank you so much for your support. Now let's get you back to the video. Moving on to match 4, we had Randy Orton against a mystery opponent that ended up being none other than TNA World Heavyweight Champion Joe Hendry. I never in a million years thought that it was going to be Joe Hendry. I have some bigger thoughts about this in terms of the relationship between TKO and TNA here that I'll share in just a second, but I didn't think that WWE would give this giant spot to somebody that isn't part of their company, somebody that isn't a WWE superstar or somebody that just signed with the WWE. So this was just so cool to see such a popular, beloved wrestler in Joe Hendry getting this giant moment, this giant opportunity to have his music be heard at WrestleMania, to get a full WrestleMania entrance and to face Randy Orton of all people. The pop was loud, man. People instantly knew who that was, which is just so nice to know that the people in attendance knew who that was and gave him the love that he deserved, because had we had a flat crowd, this moment definitely wouldn't have been as memorable as it ultimately ended up being. The match honestly wasn't great. It was only like 3.5 minutes long, but this wasn't even about the match. It was about the reveal that it was Joe Hendry, and it was about the shenanigans that happened within the match between Joe Hendry and Randy Orton. It was never meant to be a technical bout, a 20-minute affair. This was what it needed to be. This was a fan servicey moment, and it hit in every single way. The match ends with Randy Orton stalking Joe Hendry, about to hit him with the RKO. Joe Hendry countering it, hitting his big slam, and then doing like the look away from the camera, and then turning into the camera and smiling as the camera zooms in on him. But as the camera zooms in on him, Randy Orton just like perfectly catches him into a meme-worthy RKO, a beautiful, beautiful RKO. The post-match stuff was really fun as well, with Randy Orton giving kudos to Joe Hendry, because the commentary team was selling this as if nobody wanted to do anything with this Randy Orton, that the people in the back were scared of Randy, that nobody wanted to step up. So they put over Joe Hendry by saying that he was the one that was willing to accept this challenge on such short notice. But the post-match shenanigans was just so much fun too, because we had Randy Orton allowing Joe Hendry to get his moment and then hits him with another RKO, and then Randy Orton does the Joe Hendry pose with the turn and look at the camera, and then he does his RKO pose. It was honestly just so much fun. This was a moment for the fans, a moment for Joe Hendry, and a solidification of the WWE and TNA partnership, a solidification that I have a lot more thoughts on. Here are my thoughts on this. Like, WWE is not a generous, kind company that just gives other competitors an opportunity to showcase themselves without getting something in return. In my opinion, if WWE is willing to showcase the TNA champion on such a giant stage against one of their biggest stars in front of the most eyeballs that Joe Hendry is ever going to get, because I'm just going to be flat out honest with you. Joe Hendry brought no eyeballs to this. Anyone that knows Joe Hendry, any eyeballs that Joe Hendry could have brought to a situation, they were already watching WrestleMania. Like, if you know Joe Hendry, chances are you were already watching WrestleMania. So this was eyes on Joe Hendry, eyes on TNA. They really help increase the stock of Joe Hendry and TNA. And I don't think it's just because WWE is nice. I think it's because there's a long-term play here for Joe Hendry and TNA. I think, and come back to this video in a few months, I think WWE's outright going to buy TNA, or at least TKO is going to buy TNA and make it a subsidiary like WWE is. I just don't see how WWE is just so charitable and nice to do this for TNA and Joe Hendry. I think ever since TNA packed everyone up and fired a bunch of executives, I think it's to open up room for the sale of TNA, and WWE/TKO is going to be acquiring TNA, much like they just recently acquired AAA. Mark my words, you heard it here. WWE is going to be buying TNA soon, at least according to me. Now let's go to Logan Paul versus AJ Styles. Here's the thing. This match was fine. It was a good enough match. Like, in terms from like a technical perspective, Logan Paul and AJ Styles put on a fun, hard-hitting match. However, it wasn't the match that people wanted. Let me explain. Like, when it comes to a Logan Paul match, I think people are looking for that big buzzworthy moment, the who's in the prime bottle, the really like super insane entrance, the crazy spot. We didn't get any of that. And that's why I think people are walking away saying like, this was a waste, this was terrible, what a bad match. I do think that it was maybe one of the weaker matches of the night, but like, if you just simply watch the work that those two did, I feel like they put on a really good match. And I feel like the lack of all of the viral stuff that Logan Paul is known for might have been on purpose. I feel like this match was designed to make you look at Logan Paul like a wrestler as opposed to a celebrity that can give viral views to the WWE, because this was the most wrestling match that Logan Paul has had. This was like the most pure end-to-end, bell-to-bell wrestling match that I've ever seen Logan Paul have. And again, it was good. It's just not what I'm accustomed to from Logan Paul. I was very much surprised by the ending. This did catch me off guard because Logan Paul won. I really did not think that they would give the win to Logan Paul when AJ Styles is so close towards the end of his career. I really thought that we were going to get a nice win streak here for AJ Styles. I thought that this was going to be a way to help put AJ Styles in a position to maybe go after a champion Cena for Clash at Paris or whatever it might be. And the reason I partly said that was because I always said Logan Paul can lose, because Logan Paul winning is by getting that viral moment, getting the clicks and the views, but this match didn't deliver any of that. So they treated Logan Paul more like a traditional WWE superstar than a special attraction here. And I feel like that's part of the reason why so many people were ultimately let down by this match. They did do the typical Logan Paul traditional, shenanigans with somebody coming in with brass knuckles, but we had a little bit of a swerve this time with Karrion Kross stopping that guy, being a babyface, helping AJ Styles to make sure that he doesn't get hit by those brass knuckles. And he tells AJ, grab the brass knuckles, hit him, win for us. You need to win this. You need to win for the boys in the back. And that is what opens up a space for Logan Paul to be able to pick up the victory. Yeah, man, like the decision has me a little bit confused, and perhaps maybe it is to develop more of a traditional wrestler respect for Logan Paul here. But I genuinely wasn't expecting this. I really wasn't expecting the involvement of Karrion Kross. I'm a little bit like conflicted about this match because I don't think that it was bad. It's just, it wasn't what I guess, quote, paid to see. I wanted to see something in particular out of this match, and I don't feel like that's the thing that I got. So because of that, I'm going to give it a thumbs down, but I'm really like optimistic as to what they're going to be doing here with Logan Paul if the intention is for Logan Paul to be more of a wrestler now. Now let's move on to the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship match between Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, defending against Lyra Valkyria and a mystery tag team partner, that being the returning Becky Lynch. Okay, so I have some thoughts. Before I talk about Becky Lynch, I think it's still a giant bummer how they ended up treating Bayley here. Treating Bayley like this, a veteran, a highly respected member of the roster, I think is just such a disservice. I do think at the end of the day, that Becky Lynch Lynch is a bigger star than Bayley by a good amount, but I don't know that she's so much bigger than Bayley that it warrants completely writing off a healthy Bayley, a Bayley that put 45 minutes of work in a gauntlet match to get this match for Becky Lynch. I just don't feel like the trade-off is worth it here when you could have easily had Becky Lynch just return on Monday and it would have also been a huge moment. I feel like the solution here would have just been to bring back Becky Lynch way sooner than they did so that Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria could have built up an actual tag team and tag team chemistry and had Bayley either just straight up not be part of the WrestleMania card because that would have been less disrespectful than getting yoked at the end there last second, or actually develop what we thought they were going to develop, which was Bayley versus Roxanne Perez. Either way, like, I have a bit of a sour taste in my mouth, and I'm a huge fan of Becky Lynch. Like, I love Becky Lynch. I go to bat for Becky Lynch when she gets a lot of hate online and people call her Becky Hogan, but this one's kind of tough to defend. I'm just bummed out for Bayley. That's all. I am happy that Becky Lynch is back, and she got a giant pop from that crowd as well. I would say that the match was nothing particularly very special. It was definitely the showcase of Becky Lynch here. The match only went on for about 8 minutes, and it was all about waiting for that Becky Lynch hot tag. And once the Becky Lynch hot tag came in, that's when the match really opened up. Lyra Valkyria was able to take out Raquel Rodriguez on the outside, which allowed Becky Lynch to hit the manhandle slam on Liv Morgan inside of the ring to pick up the victory, pin, and celebrate with now Lyra 2 belts. So it's cool, you know, Becky Lynch is back. The match was like okay at best, but it is going to be considered, you know, a big moment because it is the return of Becky Lynch. I wish that it wasn't as I guess sullied by the fact that Bayley kind of got done dirty here. Return, I'm happy for it. Big thumbs up for the return of Becky Lynch. The consequences of it, which is a little bit of the burial of Bayley, I'm not a huge fan of. The match was like aggressively okay. It wasn't particularly something that is worth really a rewatch. It was like okay at best, but I feel like the return of Becky Lynch kind of does give this a little bit more upside. I'll go like in the middle. And now let's talk about the main event. John Cena versus Cody Rhodes for the WWE Undisputed Championship. And oh boy, oh my God. Okay, where do I even begin here? Okay, so John Cena didn't get like a special entrance. He just went out there with no color, which was pretty cool. Just like basically like a blacked out version of his Titantron. Cody Rhodes had like evil Knievel's and on motorcycles jumping from one side of the stage to the other, and he had a new mask that opened up like Iron Man, which is pretty cool. I think the best thing about this match was the atmosphere of the crowd. The crowd was very much driven by nostalgia here because they were very much a pro John Cena crowd and unfortunately an anti Cody Rhodes crowd. And weirdly enough, I feel like this kind of hurt the match, even though I like the ecosystem and the atmosphere that it created, because John Cena was trying so hard to be a bad guy, to be a heel, but the crowd just was not playing along at all. So we had a rather pro John Cena crowd, anti Cody Rhodes crowd. That was cool. But let's talk about the match, because from an in-ring perspective, I always thought that this was going to be weak. And I don't think that I was wrong in that statement, considering we have John Cena, somebody that already wasn't like the greatest savant in the ring. He was good at like elevating his game when he's facing other fantastic professional wrestlers, but we're talking about a John Cena that's like literally years and years removed from being a full-time performer, a John Cena that's also the oldest he's ever been. Well, technically at any moment you're the oldest you've ever been, so that was kind of stupid to say, but this is an old John Cena compared to the John Cena that you used to know and love, or know and hate. Either one works here. But here's the thing, with the limitations of John Cena and me knowing that this was not going to be this like stellar 5-star Tokyo Dome classic, I feel like they found the right match choreography for like the first 15 minutes. I feel like for the first 15 minutes, they were nailing it. I feel like they took the limitations of Cena and worked perfectly around them. Because at the end of the day, what we got here was a Cena that was doing heel work. He was much slower, a lot more methodical. He was a lot more evil, a lot more expressive in his body language. And to me, that was working. He was doing double axe handles from the second rope, like classic heel stuff from the 80s and 70s. And we even at one point devolved to what I think is what makes John Cena matches entertaining, which is just the showcase of John Cena moves, a bunch of AAs, 5-knuckle shuffles, even though he was doing it in a really, really heel way, where he was like kind of like walking through the paces instead of like running through them. So there was some stuff to like there, even if it's not your traditionally good match. It was worked well within the limitations that it had. I was enjoying it. I found what to like in that match. Even if there were a ton of AAs, we had like 4. We even had an Avalanche AA and Cody Rhodes kicked out of all of them. Like, that was kind of hype. I was down for that. So we had a match that was working well within its limitations, doing a good enough job at keeping me entertained, showing me a different version of John Cena. So far, I was down. And then they knock out the ref, and I said, oh boy, here we go. This is about to get good. Little did I know those were my famous last words, because this is where it just becomes garbage. So Cody Rhodes is able to hit a crossroads on Cena, but the ref is down, so he's not able to actually get the victory. Travis Scott's music hits. John Cena's like maniacally laughing, like, yes, my trump card, the person that's gonna help me win, my ace of my sleeve is here. 145-pound soaking wet Travis Scott is here to help me. And I was hyped. I was like, here we go, fellas. This is where we go from an okay match to a legendary main event, because I was expecting Travis Scott's music to hit, for him to pose at the top of the ramp for a second, and then we would hear Rock's music hit, much like how we heard their combination of songs at Elimination Chamber. Unfortunately, Rock's music never hit. Instead, Travis Scott flat out just walks to the ring, takes like 5 freaking minutes to get there. The man is just aura farming every step of the freaking way. And I was like, okay, all right, maybe we're gonna do this bloodline rules where one comes out and then somebody comes in, a babyface, to nullify Travis Scott. But no, that wasn't the case. Instead, like, Travis Scott was it. Like, that was all. That was the shock. That was the awe that we got in this match. There was no Rock coming out. There was no Stone Cold coming out. I had a feeling we weren't going to get Stone Cold, because earlier in the night, they used the Stone Cold pop for him to come out in an ATV, announce the attendance, and run into a barricade and earn WWE a big fat lawsuit from the girl that got hurt. So once they already used Stone Cold there, I was already pretty hesitant about the idea of Stone Cold actually being in this match, but I thought there was going to be more. I was anticipating like Seth Rollins in here, but like I said, it was just the Travis Scott show, and that does not work for me, brother. Listen, Travis Scott goes out there. He stops the pin after a second crossroads to prevent Cody Rhodes from winning. Cody Rhodes brings Travis Scott into the ring, hits Travis Scott with his own crossroads, and then Cena is in the corner with the belt. He's about to hit Cody with the belt, but then Cody turns, sees him, stops him, takes the belt. And this is where the match kind of took the moment that Cena was alluding to, that there was going to be a moment where Cody would have to choose between being the champion of the people, or just simply winning. And instead of hitting Cena with the title, he hesitates, which allows Cena to hit him in the balls once again with a kick, an AA, and that's it. That's all she wrote. That was the end of the match. John Cena picks up the victory, and 17. History has been achieved with Travis fucking Scott. I was excited when I heard Travis Scott's music, because I thought he was going to be like 10% of the equation. But having Travis Scott literally be the driving force of this, be the deciding factor, brings me back to the last time that they made this terrible decision at SummerSlam 2015 between John Cena and Seth Rollins in the match to unify the WWE title and the US title, where they had Jon Stewart go out there and win the match for Seth Rollins. Ask anybody that watched that at that time. No one will say, dang, man, I'm so happy that they used Jon Stewart for this. This is such a memorable, classic heritage WWE moment. No one loved that. So why harken back to it and do it again? And not just do that again, but do it at the main event of WrestleMania, a fantastic night of WrestleMania, which makes this WrestleMania end in such an absolute dog water way. Here's the thing. I feel like I'm now seeing this group of people gaslight themselves into saying this is what they were going for. They were trying to ruin wrestling for you. I mean, ruin wrestling, I always thought might have been a metaphor. They might have actually like fucking ruined wrestling with this main event. Maybe mission accomplished, I guess. Look, I like the ending, the title part. I feel like had they gone through the early portions of the match, the stuff that was like pretty like slow, not great, but like building up to like more heel tactics from John Cena, skip the Travis Scott spot, and we just kind of got naturally from match to that ending with the title shot. That might have been just way better, like just not including the shock of Travis freaking Scott. I also didn't like that John John Cena was basically like celebrating that Travis Scott was his ace up his sleeve. Like, what's Travis Scott gonna do in real life? The dude weighs 130 pounds versus two behemoths in real life, in John Cena and Cody Rhodes. So even though I tried to find what to like in this match, I felt like I was very objective about it. I told you what I liked. What I didn't like severely outweighs this. However, it's still John Cena winning the 17, god damn it. And if you don't think that I'm gonna celebrate that, then you don't know me. I'm the biggest John Cena fan in this planet, and we have 17. Ric Flair, more like Rick Woo. I mean, Rick Who? That's who you are now. Let's go. John Cena's the champion. 17. We'll see you on Monday Night Raw. That's it for this review. The main event gets a thumbs down. The Mania is going to be remembered for this horrible main event, but the Mania was good, okay? Don't let people tell you that this is the worst Mania of all time. It's not, okay? The people saying that this is the worst Mania of all time are clearly new wrestling fans that have only watched the last 5 Manias that have been good. This just happens to be a Mania that didn't end very well. But I promise you, when you lay it all out, this was a pretty solid Mania. That's it, folks. I am done. Get out of here. Hey, we don't have to hear Fiend, 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 Fiend anymore, so that's good. Bye.